Good morning, friends, and welcome. Let's start our class today with a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Guru Preceptors, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Master Paramahansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. Bless us during challenging times to attune ourselves ever more perfectly to Thee. We are Thine. Help us to feel Thy presence always. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We'll start with a song and then an excerpt from a talk by Swamiji on this topic of spiritual tests. Welcome again, everybody.
Some men call it progress, down with those who doubt. To join the causes others join and shout when others shout. You're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Some men lack the daring ever to be free. They shun the heights and cloud the depths and court security. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Cowards see but pride in singularity. Oh, never mind if men are wrong, so long as they agree. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Claim the power within you, error to defy. The world may change or disappear, but truth can never die. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone.
And it does take a kind of heroism, but not that kind of heroism. What happens is that you get a level of divine presence within yourself where you simply can't help loving everybody. It's like that experience up at the retreat when we had our first temple burned down in a fire. And I was feeling happy enough in myself because I'm basically non-attached, but there was still that feeling in my heart that, is God displeased? Have I done something wrong? Why did this have to happen? And you can't laugh that kind of thing away with positive attitude. That kind of thought you have to face, don't you? And so I sat down in meditation that night, and I just said to God and Guru that everything I've done, I've done for you. I haven't done it for myself. And if there's any corner in my heart in which that isn't true, then I give it all to you all over again now. I don't want it, it's yours. And as soon as I prayed that way, just from one moment to the next, I felt flooded with so much joy that I was really weeping with joy. And I said, God, why didn't you take the other buildings too? It's a feeling that it's totally different. And when it comes, it's not you. Well, that kind of consciousness, the teachings of Jung and those people who get into psychology don't really take into account. There's another aspect to it, though, and that is that, well, I was in a dentist's chair a few months ago, and I don't like to take Novocaine, and so I was sitting there without Novocaine and sort of keeping my mind off the pain and thinking about other things. And then the pain got to the point where it was very hard to forget the pain. So what did I do? I concentrated on the pain. Instead of trying to ignore it, I looked at it very steadily. And I reached the point where I got down into the center of the pain, and suddenly it ceased to exist. And so you see, there's truth on both sides of this picture. On the one hand, we can affirm, yes, and by the affirmation it can help us to get into a higher state of consciousness where this darkness really does cease to exist. You've turned the light on and there's no more problem then. On the other hand, you can't always do that, can you? It's not always there. Sometimes the pain's too great and you just can't shake loose of it. And here's what I've found, that when people have that problem, all too often what they do is they say, well, on the one hand, I'm practicing spiritual discipline and meditation and I shouldn't feel this way and therefore I don't. And they're kidding themselves. If they really do feel it, you can't get rid of it merely by saying I don't. The affirmation, the purpose of affirmation is to put you in tune with a higher reality. And there's another aspect to it too, and that is that if you can put enough energy into an affirmation, not to make it passive, but put energy out, you may in fact be able to generate enough energy that everything else, negative and positive, gets drawn in its wake.
Good morning again, friends. I'd like to start with a couple of brief quotes from Master about tests. There are no such things as obstacles, only opportunities. And the second, conditions are always neutral. They seem positive or negative according to the attitudes of the mind. This is such an important topic that many people come onto the spiritual path. I've heard them, and they think once they come on the path that everything will be wonderful and there'll just be rose petals strewn in front of them on their path, and they'll never have a test, and they'll never go through any challenging times. But the purpose of the path is to get you above, to help you to work through your karma, help you to work through wrong attitudes and wrong behaviors and wrong habit patterns. And this takes a lot of energy, and it takes a strong person to be able to confront the things that come to you. And they come from your own karma, they come from God, they come from Divine Mother, they come from Guru. But it helps us to raise our energy up. And we keep growing and growing stronger and more centered and more clear and more happy and more free because of the challenges that we go through. And as Sister Gyanamata said, your religion will be tested in the cold light of day. And so we're not learning all these techniques and doing the practices and living the teachings for nothing. We're doing it so that we have like a big toolbox, you could say, and we can fight against. Life is a battlefield, it really is. And I certainly have gone through my set of challenges. And I remember one time Swamiji said to me at one of these times when it was a big challenge, he said, "Dhyana, look what it takes to find God." And I was shocked. I thought he would have some pity or something like that. And then he added, look what I've had to go through. And I thought, my God, I could never go through that, but you have to. These things are there. If you really want to find God and change yourself and uplift your consciousness and become a saint, you've got to work on yourself. And so Master said God will never give you a test that's too strong, that you can't handle. But there are tests along. Some are small, some are large. But everyone goes through them. It could be a health challenge. It could be someone passed away close to you. It could be relationships. It could be your job, your finances. There are all sorts of things that happen, but it's how we approach them. And the path gives us the way to approach them with positivity, with energy, with magnetism, with tools to work with the right attitudes. And so you can't run and hide away from your tests. They're coming, and they will be there. As Swamiji's song, in one of his songs, he says, you look, one test will come, and then the next day you face its friend. It's just the matter of life, even not just the spiritual path, but of life. And so what is the purpose of tests? To strengthen us, to burn away our karma, to uplift us, to make us strong in ourselves, and finally, so that we can be free in this lifetime and find God. And so if that's your goal, then surely there will be tests. And how do we face those? Well, first of all, you have to be as positive as you possibly can. Now, it's not always easy to be positive when things are happening, but Master and Swamiji gave us wonderful examples. And Master, he had many tests in America. I mean, all you have to do is read the stories of Master's life. His best friend betrayed him. He had lacked money a good part of the time. He was dark-skinned. He was run out of town because of that. He was Indian, he had long hair and sometimes a beard. There was a lot of prejudice in America. Master himself went through many trials and tests. And then his Golden Lotus Temple fell into the Pacific Ocean because of erosion. And Master said, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. People said, aren't you sorry? Aren't you? Said, no, it's the best thing that ever happened. Because after that, he went out and he started teaching, and he founded 3, 4, 5 other centers after that temple fell into the ocean. He said, Divine Mother wanted me to go out more. And there was a time when they had no money and they just had tomatoes, planting tomatoes. They had, all they could eat was tomato soup, tomato stew, tomato bake, tomato, everything. But they did it. He was founding his work in America, and he did whatever it took to make it happen. And, you know, in all of the places I've been in Italy, Australia, Africa, here in India, a startup is a startup. You're going through some difficult times. To just form a beachhead, you're trying to get a work started, and you go through tests where you don't have the finances, people aren't coming, no one's attending the classes. I mean, it's all kinds of things, but you just keep going, and with the most positive spirit that you can. And I remember some stories of Swamiji. I believe between he and Master, they're the most positive people I know. Swamiji was always positive, and he was in the hospital. This is a funny one. And his doctor, he was getting ready to have a surgery. He was in the hospital many, many times. In America and here in India many times. And he didn't make a big deal of it. And it just wasn't, he didn't put energy into that, just like he said about the dentist. And so then the doctor came in, and he had Swamiji's chart of all the things that were wrong with Swamiji that he was working with, and his health challenges. And then so he read this, and then he looks at Swamiji and says, well, how's your health, and how are you doing? And Swamiji said, excellent, excellent. And the doctor looked at the report again. He said, it just couldn't be. He said, I feel excellent. He just didn't have an attachment to the body. And then when he had hip surgery. He had one hip was done, and then he had the other hip done. Then the first hip went out, so he had the other hip done, and everybody was, oh, poor Swamiji. And what did he say? He said, hip, 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 hooray! He just didn't buy in to body consciousness and to any consciousness of Maya. He just clung to God. And that was the example for all of us. And so we have to realize that that's what we're here for, and that's how we grow. And there's I remember another thing to keep in mind, so positivity, and then not dwelling on the problem. Most people, they go into it, they sit with it forever. It's like their child. They love that problem. And I remember when I was first here in India, and I had a variety of difficulties. I mean, we were new here. We didn't know quite what we were supposed to do. And, it was a beginning startup. And so I remember going from the ashram to Swamiji's house, back and forth, doing lots of things and helping Swamiji. And at a certain point, I just thought, gosh, I've got so many problems, but I don't have any time. And it was the best medicine. And anytime you went to Swamiji with a variety of problems, he gave you something to do. Just don't dwell on it. Just keep the energy moving. And so find something to do, some seva. Call people on the phone and put a WhatsApp message on the phone about master's teachings or classes, or just get out of yourself. If you want to sit there forever, you can. But I found that as long as I keep moving, keep the energy going, then the test comes and goes fast. Otherwise, it could be there for months. You could be suffering. Master said it's a self-imposed suffering. You put it on yourself. And so the second thing is don't dwell. Finally, the third is is keep your sadhana strong. Don't let go of your meditation. My God, the first thing they do is, okay, I'm not going to meditate. I'll just go to a psychologist, or go to a psychic, or I'll go to somebody who can tell me, an astrologer, and Master can't help me, but he's the one who can help you. And so the thing is, keep your meditation strong and keep calling on the masters. They're there. There's that beautiful story, I'll close with this, of a disciple, servant of Babaji, who he went to Shankarji for an astrological reading. So he went there, and Shankarji said to this man, oh my God, this is a terrible reading. It says you're going to die tonight. And the man said, are you sure? He said, yeah, this is a hard karma. You're going to die tonight. You may as well prepare yourself. So the man went back to Babaji, and he's told him what Shankarji said. And Babaji said so beautifully, go back and tell him it won't happen. So beautiful. Go back and tell him. The man, when he came to Babaji, was shaking like a leaf, saying, I'm going to die tonight. He says, go back and tell him. So he went back. He said, my guru said it's not going to happen. And Shankarji said, this is a hard karma. If you don't die tonight, I myself will go to your guru and take diksha. So the man went back, and all night there was this huge storm and lightning strikes all around, and Babaji laid on top of the disciple. He just put his aura, his body, on top of that man all night long and protected him. The morning he got up, he went back over to Shankarji, and he says, I'm coming with you to your guru and take diksha. The master said that's how he took diksha from Babaji. We've got to know we have so much help, but most people close the door. And whatever's trying to happen is supposed to happen. Don't try to skip out or hide, or it's your own karma, nobody else's, it's yours. And Master said about Gyanamata, she was 20 years in bed, ill. And Master just said to her, I'm not going to let you go until it's time for you to go. And he didn't care what she went through. She would write letters to the disciples from the bed. She would energize from the chair. And Master kept her in that body. And what was the reward? She was completely free in that lifetime. Master had the disciples in her passing feel her feet. They were like ice. And then he had them feel her head. It was like a heater. And he said, this shows you she left the body through the top of the head, Saraswata Chakra, never to come back again. This is the goal. Work it out. That fellow Horace Gray, I think was his last name, and he was a spastic, and he could barely walk. Swamiji said it was painful to hear him talk, and Master said the man was nearly fully liberated, and the other disciples said, God, how could that be? And Master said, Divine Mother's pleased with his devotion. And they said, it must be very simple devotion, Master. And he said, oh, that's what God loves. So at the end of this man's life, Horace, this woman who was a disciple, she was there, Master was there, Horace and this woman. And she was walking by, Horace was there, this woman was walking by Master, and the thought in her mind was, why doesn't he heal this man? He sees what he's like. I know he can, why doesn't he heal him? And Master caught that thought. And then he went up to her and he said, isn't it wonderful that Horace is working out all the karma that put him in that body in this lifetime? Isn't it wonderful? And she never asked him again about him or probably anybody else. And I think that should be our mantra. Isn't it wonderful? I can work out my karma and get free. Isn't it wonderful? Master and the gurus are with me. Isn't it wonderful? I've got Kriya to work with. Isn't it wonderful? And as you feel that, what a blessing we have. And I was just at an orphanage. We'll show you some pictures. But those children, they had such bright eyes. We'll show you pictures at the end. They were so sweet. And this place was like, it was tiny. They work there, they sleep there, they do their classes there, everything. When I went in the kitchen, I said, I want to see the kitchen. The kitchen was bare. There was just 2 big pots on the floor. And that was it. And the rooms were just all the boys in one room, all the girls. So I asked one of the girls, I said, you'll see the pictures now soon. I said, are you happy here? Is everybody happy? She said, Bahut. Really happy. Now, we have to be like that. You can have nothing and be really happy. All the challenges in the world and be really, really happy. I'll ask Nitendra now to come on screen, and we have just like 3 questions today.
Yes, Dhyanji, I'll just share my screen. The first question, Dhyanji, is I have gone through many tests and trials and don't really know if God is actually there for me. So how can I find out if He is there?
I've always found that the presence in my heart, I could feel Master's touch in my heart and His presence there. Even if I was suffering, so-called suffering a lot, I just could feel that He was walking with me, even though I had to go through my own karma. And I think people immediately say, no, He's not there because I'm still going through the karma. But just, if Master is pleased and you feel that pleasure, His pleasure in your heart, then just go through it. Keep praying to Him, talking with Him, and all the Masters. You'll find it. You can get through it. And He's surely there. I think the question is, where are we? If you're there, you'll feel master. If you're not there, you go off somebody else, and talking forever about it, you don't feel him. So go straight to the guru, and you'll surely feel him with you. Master said about Senor Coron, he said, I lost sight of you for a few lifetimes, but I won't lose sight of you again. And Senor Coron said, Master, please don't lose sight of me, please, I promise. And Master said, I won't. And then Swamiji explained that. He said, now Master didn't lose sight of Coron. Coron lost sight of Master. Doesn't that make sense? The guru never loses sight of the disciple, but we shut the door in various ways.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. The next question you partly touched upon the techniques. So the question is, what are the tools that we have on our path to deal with tests and challenges?
First is energization. If you don't have any energy, you can't do anything. Secondly is Hong Sa. If you can't concentrate, you can't get through any tests. Next is the Om technique. If you can't attune to God, then you don't know which way to go. And the next is Kriya. Kriya just burns up your karma. Do more Kriya during those times. Another is Satsang. Don't be at home alone working at your problems. Get in with the group. And you'll find there's a magnetism, there's power that's pushing you forward. Another is Seva. If you're not serving, you're going to have a hard time, period. Of course, okay, then everything that I mentioned. Satsang, Seva. Here's another one, singing, chanting. You chant, you can chant half the battle, Master said. You can chant your worries away. Get a harmonium, get a tanpura, put on the music and listen and chant. One time someone died who was very close to me. Nothing helped but chanting. I chanted for weeks. Then it was gone. So we have enough tools. But I think people drop the tools and run off and do something else, and you don't get it. You don't get there. Master wants us to use these tools to get through the challenges. He wants us to use them. That's why he gave them to us, isn't it? Yeah, okay.
Final question, Dhyanaji, is when tests come, then I tend to get depressed, I overeat, smoke, or drink. So how can I come out of these bad habits?
God. Satsang, I would say. Go in your temple and meditate first and call to Babaji, Lahiri Mahashayaji, call to the gurus, call to Master, and just say, I don't want these bad habits to happen. Yeah, I left Ananda for 3 years thinking I would be better off somewhere. This was, thank God, in the very beginning. That was the time I suffered the most in my life. And then finally, after those 3 years, it was almost like I could hear Master's voice saying, what are you doing? Just go back. Go back to Ananda. Go back to your teachings. And when I went back, it was just like the darkness was just completely gone. And so we have everything we need, and the gurus are there. And but the final thought on this is you can't run away from your karma. You have to work it out. But I can say after many years, decades of seeming struggle, that I can feel now that it's not like I'm climbing up to the top of Mount Everest. It's just like the wind is in the sail. And it's just... But you got to build the boat. You got to lift your sail up. And if you don't have the boat, you can't do anything. And so you have to do that work yourself. But you can do it with strong people around you, talking with the acharyas, seva, satsang, all of those things. Okay?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. So we're going to close now with some beautiful pictures of the orphanage I went to in Mumbai, Little Angels Orphanage. And I just want you to see how joyful these children are in the midst of great, great challenges. I was just there this past weekend with Shurja and Aryavan.
Right. It's good. Appreciate it. Happy Friendship Day. Happy Friendship Day. How does one celebrate? Happy Friendship Day. Happy Friendship Day. Happy Friendship Day. So what do we do?
God bless you. Have a wonderful day.